What is up, guys? What's up? What's up? What's up? See if it's working. I'm gonna check that. Well, looks like it's working. Maybe, maybe not. How's everybody doing? Let me know if you can hear me. Trying to figure out if this is working or not. Oh, I think it's working. All right, great. All right, welcome back to another video or maybe a live stream, I guess. This is my third one. I've done one for the past 2 days or 3 days or so. All right, so today I wanted to we're gonna go over some comments. I did have one interesting one on yesterday's live stream that I didn't get to. All right, you guys saying you can hear me? All right, great. Comments. All right, so the question was, is it better to go to college up north or down south if I'm pursuing a finance career? So I wouldn't say it matters what if you go to college up north or in the south. Simply because, well, it doesn't matter, but if you know that you want to work in New York, like in investment banking, or maybe in consulting, but you want to work in New York, then it would definitely help to work in colleges that are in that area, simply because you get to network with people that are already in that area. So that's the only advantage that I see to that. I've seen a lot of people that I've worked with in the past. If you work in consulting, you work with everyone from everywhere, right, all over the US. And a lot of consultants that are, that maybe work in the New York office, they went to school there, they went to schools that are, in that area. So it doesn't really matter where you go to school, but it's gonna help you if you know that you only want to work in this area. So going to school there is gonna allow you to maybe do internships that are in that area, or maybe the schools are probably more known over there than schools that might be in the south. So try to find another one here. I wish this would change. And if you guys have any questions in the chat, just make sure to drop them in there. While I look for more questions. All right, someone was asking. This is an older comment asking about interview skills. I believe I did a video on that, on how to interview as a financial analyst or something like that. Let me see if I can find the video and show you guys. Oh, there you go. This is the video. See if I can share my screen so you guys can actually see this as well. All right, there you go. So this is the video here. So this is the video I went over. I want to emphasize this is like an old video. That's back when I was living on, I think I was still in college here, or maybe I was living close to college. This is my old apartment. But yeah, so this video essentially goes over, some of the interview questions that you are more likely to get asked. It wasn't really like those focused interview questions. It was more like, the questions that you're likely to be asked. So if you go ahead and watch this video, yeah, oh, there was a question on here. All right, so yes, I think someone summarized the questions here, so I can go over these, I guess. All right, so when you go into these interviews, right, there's gonna be some of those questions that are always gonna be kind of like, you get them in every interview, and there's also some technical questions that are maybe that only, focus on the position that you're applying to, right? If you're applying to be someone who's in operations, you get the general questions, and you also get the position specific questions. So this video I went over, why do you want to be a financial analyst? This is one that usually don't get asked. It's more like uh like um it's gonna be asked, but in different ways, right? It's not gonna be that direct. You also have things like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Some jobs will ask you that. You also have things like, why should we hire you? That's a really popular one. You also have something like, tell me a situation where you had a tight deadline or something like that, or where you had to solve a problem. And that's kind of like to see your thought process when it comes to how you approach problem solving. Let's see, and there's also some questions about teamwork. There's gonna be, how they can even take it a step further and say, tell me one time you worked with the team, and and that your opinion was challenged, right? And they're trying to see how you can mitigate kind of like a situation where your teammates might not agree with you and you think you're right, right? So they'll ask you that as well. That's a popular question. And you also have, those specific tools, like, those specific questions where they ask, what tools have you used, and like, do you know how to use Excel? Or if it's assumed that you know how to use Excel, you get those questions like, do you know how to use pivot tables? Do you know how to use do VLOOKUPs and HLOOKUPs? And then the last one is always going to be, do you have any questions for me? And you should always have questions for them when you get that question. So yeah, so if you go watch that video, it's called 8 Financial Analyst Interview Questions and Answers. So I really go in depth. It's a 14-minute video. If you go ahead and watch that, I'll put it in the live stream chat. So if you want to save it or something like that. All right, so in the chat, there's a question. It says, will most of the fields in finance be automated in the coming future? So I would say it's already happening. I think I made a video on it a little while ago. Just, focusing on finance. It's already happening in accounting, right? You have in tax accounting, to be specific. So you already have these softwares like TurboTax that does the taxes for you. You don't need to go to an accountant, right? You can always, use. Most accountants even use those tools, right, in order to assist them. So yes, automation is going to be coming to every field, especially in business. That's why you have, fields that are blowing up, like business intelligence, right? This is essentially using technology to, optimize business decisions and things like that. So yes, but I would say that for finance, it's actually going to help you, because if you look at, if you really look at it, you can look at Microsoft Excel, right? That is some type of automation, right? We don't have to, if you can process the data using Microsoft Excel and not have to do the math, then that's automation. Then you can take it a step further. You have, these things that create a financial statement for you. You can just plug in the numbers and it spits out, the final result. So yes, automation is going to be coming to finance, but I think it's gonna be beneficial to finance and accounting, like it is in accounting right now. It's gonna be super beneficial because it's a tool that analysts and whoever can use to optimize their work and to even do their work faster. Now, if you work in, I'll give you a solid example here. If you work in finance, you know that, or if you're a financial analyst, right? You know that if there's a project, there's a couple things you have to do. I'll just summarize them. You have, you have to know where to find the information, right? The data. Once you get the data, you have to figure out how to get the data. And when you have the data, how do you manipulate the data? How do you transform the data? And and then after that, you have, you make your decisions based on, those data-driven decisions based on the data that you have. Let's say you have to transform it into something else, then that's the last part. The shortest part with analysis is going to be the decision making, right? Because you already have the data, and the data tells you what's possible and what's not possible. So the biggest part is getting the data and analyzing the data. So if you can have tools that can actually get the data for you and analyze the data for you. So I don't think there's ever going to be, or there might be way, way, way in the future, but most automation is going to be focused on um, the analysis part, right? It's going to assist you with the analysis, but then the decision making, right, which is what happens at the end of that assembly line. The decision making is gonna be a human, like a human activity, right? A human has to make the decision, and they call them data driven decisions. Hopefully this is not lagging. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna take a quick break. Um, and I'm gonna see what's going on with the Wi-Fi. Hopefully, it's not lagging. All right, we are back. All right, so there's another question in the chat. Says that thank you for your response. And my next question is, was your finance degree difficult? Um, so I wouldn't call it yes, the work was if you go to a public university, right, there's always gonna be those classes that are that are there are always going to be those classes that you have to take, like the English classes or, like really boring classes. But other than that, once you get into the finance stuff, I'm assuming that you actually like it, right? If you like it, once you start taking those classes that are specific to finance, it starts to get a little more interesting. But it's only the last 2 years of college, right? Your junior year and senior year, that's when you really focus on that. So was it exciting? Not really. Maybe the college experiences, the typical college experiences, those were fun. But the degree itself, yes, it was fun as soon as I started taking finance related classes, right? You go into corporate finance too. You go into money and banking. You go into sometimes you might even have what do you call it? You might even have those classes that you can the one-offs if you're focusing on something. I started taking classes like I forget, like finance for entrepreneurs, things like that. So once you start taking the actual finance classes, it starts to get more exciting and more exciting in terms of classes. So yeah, I think overall it was great. It wasn't I wouldn't say it was boring. All right, so another question is what are the fastest rising fields in finance for the future. So for now, I could tell you that it is a lot of things in fraud and risk management, compliance. This is a new field that has been rising, right? Based on if you look are not to call them victims because they make money out of like everyone, right? But banks are kind of like the victims of kind of like scammers. simply because they get fined and penalized, even though the person that's losing the money is also a victim. But in terms of business wise, banks have faced a lot of risk, and it is not compliance is not really an area that they can keep up with, right? You have the government that says, hey, banks, if this happens, we're going to fine you this, right? If your bank was used to do scams and things like that, we're going to fine you this. So banks haven't really been able to keep up with regulation. So compliance is one of those rising areas, fields in finance, especially working with banks. If you look up compliance jobs, you're gonna see there's a lot of compliance jobs, and you can get paid a lot of money. There's also certifications for compliance that you can have, and I've seen some of my friends and work colleagues that only have a bachelor's degree, and they do an anti-money laundering certification, and they go to a big bank and they go become a VP of compliance or VP of risk, VP of, there's so many terms that they use, but it falls under compliance. So yeah, so that's what I see. That's one of the um, you know, recently rising areas in finance and business. And you don't have to be in finance to really do that. You can just be in risk or maybe operations, or you don't have to be in finance. You can be an accountant that wants to do that. That is where a lot of opportunity is. There's a lot of jobs. They have plenty of money to go around when it comes to those fields, because the faster you're able to get certified, that means you are up to date with those compliance regulations that the government passes. So you're better able to assist the bank that doesn't have time to train employees, or to train everyone, because it's also a field that not a lot of people are aware of, and a lot of people aren't really into compliance, or especially for banks, right? Money laundering, anti-money laundering, as well as terrorist financing, and it's so many things that go into it. Um, Let's see here. Next one is should I get a CPA, CFA, or Fbna? So I think that's financial planning and analysis. So it depends on on where you're at. So this has always been the thing that I was told, and things that I've observed from a lot of successful people that work in business and finance. Um, Usually when you get your bachelor's degree, right? I've seen some VPs with only their bachelor's degrees. Um, Once you get your bachelor's degree, do your 4 years, 5 years in college, you do that. I would not recommend going to get a CPA or CFA. I recommend maybe working a couple of years. You might get, because I believe the financial planning and analysis is a certificate, right? Which doesn't take long to get. I would get that because it's easy to get, and you can work for a couple of years, especially if you have to pay out of pocket. Even though even some companies will even pay for your master's, right? Or if you want to study the CPA, I know that if you work for one of the big four consulting firms, they will sponsor your CPA. If you work for some companies, they will sponsor your CFA. But in general, I would say to get, if it's between the both. Now, I would say the financial planning analysis, you can get that easily, right? That's quick. You can get that. But if you want to decide between the CPA and the CFA, I would say get the CPA. That is the most respected, really. You can work in accounting and finance with the CPA. I've met CFOs with their CPAs. I've met CEOs with their CPAs, and it's just like well respected in business. CFA is more specific to those that are, I haven't really met a lot of people with that are in VP positions and things, and in those positions with the CFA is always a CPA. I think it's also more respected than the CFA, and more, and also recognized as well. Like if you have a CPA. So if you're gonna pick between those two, I would pick the CPA. I would do the financial planning and analysis. I would just do a certificate on that, like a course that gives you some credentials that that you can prove that you did it and you know how to do it. And then later on, you can go work for a firm and a company that's gonna be able to sponsor that. They might even pay for it for the most part, since you come back and bring value back to the company. So they'll probably pay for it. Um, so next one is what is the greatest achievement in your financial career so far? That's a really good question that I never really thought about. I would say my first job out of college. Um, I was promoted from an entry level financial analyst all the way to supervisor within less than 2 years, in a year and 10 months. And that was the fastest ever in the company. And I was probably the youngest person in management at the company. So that was pretty exciting. I might go back to the company, who knows? Uh, yeah, I would say that that has been, and also that comes with, not just like, the fast movement from being an entry level financial analyst all the way to being a supervisor of like a bunch of analysts. But that also comes with the connections you make, right? The people that you sit around, you're gonna be introduced to, the CEOs, CFOs, VPs, directors. Those are the people you start hanging out with. Those are the people that start kind of like teaching you. I remember when I became management level, one of the things that the COO of that company was trying to teach me was how to, talk in meetings, right? How to uh, gauge the room, how to measure the room and know what to say. Should you say a joke or should you be more serious? How to talk to clients if you have client meetings. Those were things that, whenever they see someone who's young, that's at that level, they just want to mentor you. So yeah, so that's what comes with that, as well as just management skills, how to manage people, right? Once you get to a level of management, it's no longer about the work, right? You don't have to know how to use pivot tables. You don't have to do the actual work. Your job is to manage people, right? Make sure that everyone is happy. I learned, the best ways to manage people, the best ways to, conflict resolution. Those are things that come with, as you, those are things that I think were some of the greatest achievements that I've had, as I move to different jobs and things like that. I'm able to use, I'm able to use those tools. Let's see here. Yeah, so yeah, I would say that's probably the greatest, and also that comes with more money as well, right? If you're moving up, so yeah, it comes with a lot of things that career progression that is that fast. It comes with a lot of things, and also comes with a lot of stress as well, right? Imagine being 22, 23, and the people you supervise are 30, 40, latest 50. It comes with a lot of stress and anxiety as well. Um, all right, so next question is thoughts on commercial banking. I think commercial banking is really good. And if you want to get into commercial banking, that's also a path to go into compliance, right? Fraud detection, fraud analyst. That it's a good path, and it's also commercial banking positions. They do have some of those low positions that you can go into without a college degree, right? Those where you can get a part time, maybe as a financial advisor, right? Not an official one, or maybe a bank teller or banker or something like that. Those entry level positions that don't really require you to have a college degree, and you can use that as a gateway into management. I've seen a lot. I have a friend actually that I went to college with. He worked at Chase Bank, and he started when he was in high school as like a bank teller or something like that, and he worked throughout college. By the time he graduated, he was, they moved him up to a management position because he had been there for so long. Yeah, so commercial banking is really good. I feel like it's under people want to go into what do they call it? The opposite of commercial banking, which investment banking and things like that. Commercial is more people friendly, right? Banks dealing with people, not businesses per se. So yeah, commercial banking is a really really good path to go into if you just want to be well versed into the banking world of dealing with people, not essentially investment banks, right? Like real banks that we deal with on a daily basis. And they tend to hire, they also have, people that talk to, or the specialists, right, that you talk to on the phone. It's a good like part-time job to have as you maybe get a certification and then apply for a higher position as well. Those high positions in commercial banking, sometimes they're so hard to get into if you're from the outside, but if you get that entry level in commercial banking, then you're able to apply internally, right? And you always get prioritized if you're applying internally. So next one is between accounting and business management, which would be best to minor in? Um, it depends on what your major is, actually, but I would say that, huh, if you're a finance major, I'm gonna assume, if you're a finance major, and you go to a public university, you're already taking accounting classes, right? There's those basic accounting classes. Let me know if I'm wrong if you're still in the chat. You take accounting one and accounting two, right? Those are probably the only accounting classes you ever need if you work in finance, because those classes cover the core foundation of accounting. Like that's it. If you go further than that, if you finance major, okay, great. Um, so if you go into like those, if you go from accounting one, accounting two, that's great if they're allowing you to take that, because I know a lot of public universities make you take those two classes. But the further you go up, that's when you start to specialize, right? Because you're like tax accounting, this accounting, accounting for this, right? It starts to get more specific. So accounting one and accounting two, those are the only accounting classes you're ever gonna need if you are a finance major, because accounting is the stepping stone to finance. And if you understand those two classes, finance would be so much easier. So if you minor in accounting, then you might have to, like, it might be repetitive, or you have to specialize in maybe tax accounting or something like that. So I would say business management, pretty much you're gonna be taking some management classes, which aren't usually part of the curriculum when it comes to finance, right? You might have one management class. I know I went to a public university, and there was only one management class that I took. Yeah, I think it was a business management class, where we just did a bunch of cases and we wrote about it. We did papers and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure majoring in business management will give you a couple more management classes, maybe operations based and things like that. That would definitely help you more than the accounting class, unless you really want to maybe focus your minor into maybe tax accounting or something like that. But if you just want to be able to understand accounting, those two accounting classes will help you. Accounting one and accounting two, they cover everything. I think accounting one is more so of like a general business as a whole. So that's when you cover like the accounting equation. That's when you cover the financial statements, right? Those are the core foundation of like of accounting one. And then you go into accounting two. It is more management based. It's more about what happens within a company, right? That's accounting two. And once you learn those two things between those two classes, you're good to go. You don't need any more accounting classes. And I'm telling you, they don't even get exciting after that. You're gonna get bored. Um, I think I had to take I took accounting one, accounting two, and then I took an extra class. It was accounting for finance majors. I think that was it. So that one only focused on the accounting, connecting accounting to finance, which is learning about the financial statements and how people in finance or work, finance use those financial statements in order to make data driven decisions, right? Whether it's valuing a company, right? How do you value a company? How do you calculate the value of a stock? Like the true, is it undervalued or overvalued? That's when you get to use those accounting documents, and being able to understand how those are put together is definitely going to help you understand where the numbers are coming from and which numbers to use and why you have even have to use those numbers. So yeah, so I wouldn't recommend doing a minor if you have the ability to take accounting one and accounting two without having to do the minor. You're gonna be great. Do business management to probably teach you more of operation skills and things like that, and management skills. I think those are great as well, because a lot of people have, I've seen a lot of people that are skilled. They have the technical skills, right? They know how to do everything. They're smart, intelligent people. So, but then they lack the management skill, right? Because once you reach a certain level of at a company or in your career, you have to switch from your skills, or you have to have a balance of your skills as well as management skills. Whether it's managing projects, right? It comes with managing people, managing a bunch of things. So you kind of like have to have that balance. So that's why I would prefer the management minor. And also, some people learn that on the job. Like me, I never had a management minor, but I was fortunate enough to have uh, people that were willing to teach me, that were patient enough to teach me. Let's see. Next one is should I intern in my third and fourth year, even if I have to serve the government of my country after my degree? Yeah, I mean, work experience doesn't really hurt to have. It's also gonna give you yeah, even if you have to do that, I would say still do it because it will help you a lot. Maybe in deciding what you want to do. Because yeah, if you guys have watched my channel, like my old videos, I used to be an accounting major. I was an accounting major for about a year or so. Then I switched over to finance, simply because I went and did an internship in accounting. That was my sophomore year, I believe, in college. I did an internship, and I realized how bored they were and how much work they had to do during the busy season, and how much work do they not have during the boring season. I realized I didn't want to do that, so I switched over to finance. So having, doing internships in fields that you think you want to work in the future might help you even change your mind, right? It might even help you have conviction, like, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do this. So yeah, it's always going to help you. It's never going to hurt you if you have the time. Then yeah, I would say do it. It will help you, have conviction in your decision to major in that, or it'll change your mind, right? And you're like, oh, actually, I wouldn't want to do this. I wouldn't want to wake up every day just to do this. I would want to do it. Yeah. So I would say still do it. Internships don't. They can never hurt you. Let's see here. Yeah, this is an old video. I wanted to show you guys another video that I did in the past. That oh no, that I think is a really good video to reference if I can find it. YouTube. Nash, Theo. Uh, or should I go to home? All right, so this is a video that I did. It's one of my first videos, I think. I was
What
still
is
in
up,
college.
guys? My name is
This was my
Nash, and
senior year
welcome
in
back.
college. This was my senior year in college year. And yeah, this was my dorm, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it was an apartment, not a dorm. But yeah, so this video covers my entire finance degree. If you're ever curious as to what was my classes like in college, I cover this in this video here. One of my first ever, well, not first ever videos, but one of the first ones talking about finance and majors, and started getting a lot of comments and views. And I realized, let me make YouTube videos about finance. People seem to enjoy that. Um, Another good video is obviously these are the most popular videos, I guess. You have the interview questions, 5 things I wish I knew before majoring in finance, uh, 2 best entry level finance jobs. So I talk about all these things that you guys can kind of like watch to kind of research and make up your own mind. You also have reasons you should avoid finance. You also have, is the finance degree still worth it? I know it says 2021, but it's the same thing as 2022. The reasons never really change. I have some financial analyst skills. We also have some specific videos here. We have 2 best jobs without a degree in finance. If you're one of those people, these jobs you can use them as internships as well, right? So we have how to get internships in finance, some other videos in there. Yeah, so there's some really good old videos that I have that you guys can go check out. Um, those are pretty informative. Let's see here. What else do we have? If I can bring this back. The next one is, what are your financial strengths and weaknesses? That feels like an interview. That's a good question. I would say some of my strengths is I'm a very analytical person. I like to look at the numbers. I like to break down the numbers. I like to, explain it. Also, another one is like when you're someone who's like an analyst that can understand numbers and process them, and make them make sense. Another skill you gotta pair with that is being able to explain those numbers, right? You got to be able to explain that to people that might not fully understand what you just broke down. So my other skill is probably, being able to explain what things mean. That's probably why I do tutorials. I have a bunch of YouTube channels where I just do tutorials. Because I find it easy to explain things to people in different ways that they might be able to fully understand. I think those are, when it comes to just financial strengths and that I have, is that being able to be analytical and being able to explain that. Um, yeah, when it comes to weaknesses, I would say that it's not really a weakness. It's something that's a weakness that I'm working on. Is actually, once you break down the data, you are able to explain it to someone, and maybe you want to know what to do with that data, right? You have to make a data-driven decision. You have to make the decision, should I do this or not? This is something that I've had to face over my past couple jobs, where you know usually as an entry level analyst, you only break down the numbers, you present the data, and then the management or your supervisor, director, they make the final decision, right, using your data. But once you get to a level where you're the one that has to make the decision, that's kind of like really hard, especially, it's just difficult to do that, for me. But it's something that I have to do on a daily basis for my job. So it's something that I'm working towards. Yeah, so I'll say like having to make the final decision. Of like, okay, this is the direction we're gonna take, because there's always that chance of like, what if I'm wrong, right? What if what if I'm right? Or what if, it's always going to be, what if I'm wrong? What if this happens? What if this happens? So that's something that you don't learn. It's just something that you have to be, it's like confidence, right? It's like you just got to be able to execute and be like, if it's wrong, then we figure out a way to fix it. If it's right, then yes, I mean, I made the right call. But yeah, that would be definitely a weakness right there that I'm working towards. Um, Next one is how important is Excel? So Excel is the cornerstone of finance. It is the of any finance job. It is the foundation or the building block of any. No, I think I made a video. Maybe in the past. I don't know. So I think it sounds familiar talking about Excel this way. But it's really important because Excel is how you gather the data, how you transform the data, right? How you analyze the data. You do that in Excel. So a lot of companies might use a software like Salesforce, right, where clients might put in their information, or they might use a software like not even Salesforce. They might use maybe Credit Manager, or they might use QuickBooks. They might use think about any software that any financial company can add financial data or maybe client information. You know what they usually do? They usually download the data into Excel format so they can transform the data or analyze the data in Excel. So it's always going to be that foundational skill that you need. It's like the basic skills that you need. The better you're at it, the better you're going to be at your job. But yeah, Excel is really important. Next one is psychology useful or useless in finance and business? Um, Honestly, I would say, I wouldn't say it's useless. I think it's useful, simply because a lot of the times when you go into, especially when you go into, this is something I was taught, when you go into those management positions where you are only dealing with mostly people, like people management, or even as an analyst, how do you interact with people? I feel like a lot of analysts, financial analysts, those hardcore financial analysts that are like nerds. Not to say it's a bad thing. I'm a nerd too, so so they usually don't have people skills, right? And I feel like psychology would help you be able to kind of like read people, I guess, or read the room, or know what's appropriate to ask, and what, like, I feel like it gives you awareness of people. So I wouldn't say it's useless, but I think having psychology is definitely going to help you. But once you get to that management position, psychology comes into play, right? I had to learn that on the job. I had a COO teach me about how to manage, how to keep people happy on the job, right? How to handle complaints, how to handle, someone panicking or something like that. How do you handle someone messing something up, and you know that they shouldn't have messed that up, right? So I think that is all part of psychology. Even though I didn't take it in school, I was able to learn that on the job. I had a COO that was willing to like explain how to deal with those things, and I think they lean towards the psychology of people, how to handle with people, how to deal with people. So the next one is, do you think that investment analysts will be replaced by AI? I think that's what you mean. No, they'll never be replaced by AI, but AI is gonna help them make do the job faster. I know you've seen probably the crazy hours that investment analysts and bankers work, simply because some of the work that they do is, it's like the information gathering and transforming and analyzing part. That's what takes the most time, right? I'm gonna be creating a deck, right, like a PowerPoint presentation for the client, preparing that. That takes time. Imagine if you had AI that did that for you, right? So you obviously had to review the final product, but yeah, AI, we already use it. Think about AI that we used for budgeting, right? Now you don't really need to go to a financial advisor because we have that. But when it comes to fields like that, like financial advising and things like that, yes, AI has replaced most of them. Maybe an average person like me would not go to a financial advisor. I would probably get an app that shows me how to budget, or what investments to get into and things like that. I'll get into an app like that. But when you get to a certain level, like when you get to you make a certain amount of money, like you're a millionaire or billionaire, you can't do that on you. You don't have time to do that, so you go to those financial advisors. So you can see how AI can replace some parts of a job or maybe a career, or like a field, but it doesn't replace the entire thing. For the most part, people will probably use it as a tool to do their job more accurately and better. And this one is, by the way, hablas español? Sí, muy poquito. I took Spanish in high school, for for 2 years, I think. Yeah, so muy poquito. I speak just a little bit, but I'm able to understand it more than I can speak it. So, and I live in San Antonio too. And almost everyone here speaks Spanish, um, so that's something that I'm around a lot. So I'm able to understand a good amount, but not speak as well as I might be able to read it or understand it. Um, all right. So what else do we have here? If you guys have any other questions, let me know. I don't think I have any more questions that I need to cover. Let me see. What else do we have? Okay, there's another question here. Is macroeconomics hard in a finance degree? So I'm not an economics person, but I had to take those two classes in finance, and they were very difficult for me simply because I took them my freshman year. When you just get to college your freshman year, you are, just all over the place. You're not really focused on school. Let's go to a party, let's do this, let's do this. But yeah, those are really, 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 really good classes. Microeconomics and macroeconomics. Um, those are classes that are going to help you understand, a lot of things like in the world, right? Those are important classes to take. Are they hard? Yes, they can get really difficult. I guess it depends on the professor that you have. Um, but they're classes that have concepts that affect, that make you understand how the world works of economics and how things are connected to it in a macro and micro sense way. So I would say that it's those are useful classes. They can be hard, they can be simple. uh, but yeah, it just depends on how I wasn't the smartest person in class. That's why I had some people that were obsessed with economics. People that knew everything, that watched the news, that read the policies and things like that. But it's definitely an interesting class if you are somewhat interested in that subject. Then I'm pretty sure they'll be easier for you. Next one is one more question. What is the best resource to learn how to code in Python? Huh, that's actually a good question because I just learned how to program in Python. And I've been practicing every day, almost every day. Best resource, I would say, I'll probably make a video on it today. Python for Finance. That's tomorrow's live stream if we do it. No, we're gonna do it tomorrow. The topic is gonna be finance, Python for finance, and how to learn it. So I'll just briefly explain it, and then tomorrow we can go in depth with how to uh, learn Python for finance. It's easier than you think. So best way to learn, you can learn on websites like Udemy, right, where you get a certification for that. You can learn on websites like Code Academy, right. That's where I got my certification. You can practice in there. They have like a little console. You don't have to download anything. It's web based. You can. There's so many places that can teach you Python, right? But once you learn, what's gonna happen is like whenever you take any course of Python, right? This is Intro to Python or whatever for advanced users. You're gonna learn the skeleton Python that allows you to, maybe you want to build, functions and things like use functions, build functions. It's gonna teach you the core basics of Python. But then Python has these things called libraries, right? So libraries are like uh, additional code that you can import into your code, and you can use it, and it's already pre-built for you. So there's commands that you can use, right? So there's a library for maybe Wikipedia, right? Let's say I'm building a script of that like a dictionary, right? That pulls information from Wikipedia. So I would essentially just pull the Wikipedia library into my Python. I can use a code like get this from Wiki, so it gets it for you. So Python is a super easy language to understand. It's yes, super easy. I'll do that video tomorrow. Actually, that would be part of the live stream. I'll show you some of the things like the libraries that are used in finance for Python. And once you learn the basic Python, the only thing you need to learn is the libraries. What libraries are you gonna use for your job? If you're going into investment banking, there's some libraries that might be related to that. If you're going into corporate finance, there's some libraries that may be special that you can add onto your Excel and things like that. So last one here is, unless anything else pops up, it's what is business mathematics and is it difficult? It's actually pretty. I don't know what that specific is, but if it's like for business school, I know that I had to take a class that had a similar name, but that class was a combination of algebra and calculus. So it was half and half, algebra and calculus. So it's half and half. But it's usually